What the Actual Fork podcast is co-hosted by two intuitive eating registered dietitians, yours truly, Sammy Previtt, owner of Fine Food Freedom, and Jenna Warner, owner of Happy Strong Healthy. We can't stand diet culture bullshit and love keeping it real. Our mission is for all humans to believe that they are made for so much more than chasing a smaller body. We are also here to share with you that food can be fun and pleasurable again. Although we are medical professionals, we are human too. We are not afraid to share our deepest, darkest secrets and how years of our lives were taken by diet culture. We started this podcast so no human has to feel alone in their journey towards food freedom. So get comfy and join us for a casual convo where you can expect to laugh, cry, learn, and grow.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Actual Fork podcast. I am Jenna, and I am 1,000 weeks pregnant, and my husband is pretty much certain that this podcast is going to send me into labor because I've been so excited about it for so long that today could actually be the day for a couple different reasons, but you guys are legitimately my last piece of recording before my quote-unquote maternity leave, and I've been talking to my belly all day, like, you got to stay in until 5 o'clock, like, please, please stay with me here. But today we have the absolute pleasure of having the ladies of the Undiet Collective, the creators of the short film, The Body Love Society, Lauren and Jenna, who are intuitive eating counselors who help women undiet by unlearning the diet mentality, practicing intuitive eating, and changing the way you think about food, movement, and your body. They work with women from all over the world in their intuitive eating app called the Undiet Collective. And their goal for 2021 is to provide affordable, long-term quality support for anyone who wants to get out of that diet cycle for good. You guys also have a podcast, and we are so thrilled that you're here. So thank you for being here today.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you.
So I know I gave a little intro, but tell us more about you two and where you are and how you work together to change the world.
Yeah, so I am in Calgary, Alberta. This is Jenna, and Lauren and I met online, of course, when I was doing an interview series just about undieting, getting out of dieting, and we were both doing this work, and we just got along, and 4 years later, we only work together, and we've created the Body Love Society, and now the Undiet Collective, and this film that we have coming up February 1st called Behind the Before and After.
So exciting.
Yeah, we just kind of hit it off. So we're like, let's just do this. And we've been doing it ever since. We're just like, oh, we like each other. Do you want to like maybe start something? And we're like, yeah. And then the next day it was like, should we call it like the Body Love Society? Yeah. Okay. Let's create a website. Let's do this. And that's how the business began. And here we are.
Have you guys ever met in person?
Yes, but we only met like almost a year after working together, and we've only met in person 3 times.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. Hey, me and Jen have only met once in person as well.
That's true.
So the world of Instagram and virtual connections is absolutely incredible.
I feel like the connections get deeper though, because it's like, you know everything about that person.
Oh, yeah.
Like before introducing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Well, as we were saying before we started recording, your mini short film, Behind the Before and After literally is going to break the internet. Our teams of dietitians, both with myself and with Fine Food Freedom, shared this post so many times. So many people sent it to us. I was literally like so excited to DM you guys, started listening to your podcast and just love everything that you're saying. And the lineup of people that you have that have contributed to this film is incredible. So we would just love to know, where you got the inspiration, what was like the push to say, let's do this, how you started it and got the incredible resources and research and you know, if you're worried about Dr. Oz coming after you, tell me all the things. I want to know.
Oh, good. That would be great publicity. So
I know. The more people hate us, the better, I would say.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, exactly. Then the right people will find us.
Yeah.
Well, it really started, I mean, I kind of dragged Lauren along on this journey, but we're a partner and everything. So she was gung-ho, but I think the idea started, I always said, oh, one day I want to do a documentary, because you see all those ones on Netflix about fasting and about keto and about being vegan is so great, and all these different diet documentaries. Well, where's the one that says actually none of that works? And so that was the first thing. But then the second thing that kind of sparked the before and after kind of angle of it is I'd always see like a Jenny Craig ad or a Weight Watchers ad. I'm like, oh, I bet that ad's a few years old. Like, where is that girl? And how can I wonder if I could find her and like interview these people who used to be like the poster person for this program. But obviously, like, it's 5 years later, they're probably not still like, yeah, it's amazing. I count my points every day and I will for the rest of my life. Like, that's just not the story we ever hear. So I was like, it's so interesting once you've kind of seen the light out of the diet cycle and you realize, okay, like, this doesn't work for anybody. So these people who say like, it's working for me, it's so amazing, you should buy it. Where are they now? What's really going on? And then, because I do not know how to locate people from ads that have no name on them, then we just started thinking about, well, who's publicly now sharing about body acceptance and body love? Who used to do that? So, I mean, our biggest number one was Sarah Nicole from The Birds Papaya.
I love her.
She like was on the cover of a magazine for losing half her body weight. And in the film, she says, yeah, okay, I did lose all that weight. And I was just as self-conscious as I was before. But you don't see that when she's posing on the front of a magazine. And it's obviously not her fault. She's just doing what the world tells her to do and buying into diet culture like the rest of us did. But it's just so interesting how, especially online, we show one thing when you're in it, you show one thing, but what's really going on behind those images is.
Well, we all do that. It's like, yeah, Jenna and I aren't like the famous people, but it's like we've had our own before and after picture. And so is pretty much every single person we ever known who's been a dieter or who's been stuck in this world of dieting. So it's just like, it's like an unspoken thing that everybody knows that nobody really talks about, because the after is just so smiley and so perfect, and you're thinner and life is so much better. But we all know that's not the truth, because we have our own before and after pictures, and I can tell you what was going on in my mind in the after. So it's not, basically we wanted to be able to show, doesn't matter what your body looks like, it's not going to solve all your problems. And that's why, you know, Jenna was really on like, let's get like doctors in there, because we really wanted to be able to have like legitimacy. Of course, we think that we have some good things to say, but we know people will listen to somebody who probably has letters behind their name. So we made sure to get people who are, you know, influencers and people that, you know, they see Instagram and they're like, oh, I know that person. But then people who are like PhDs and people who know things about eating disorders, etc. So there's a lot of like sciencey, legitimate facts in there, but also like the fun influencer people as well.
It's amazing. I mean, the lineup and Caroline Dooner's intro in your trailer is just so powerful. I mean, she's dead on when she says they want you to be clients for life. Like, Weight Watchers has lifetime memberships. Like, I always tell my clients, like, I don't want you forever. I love you. I'd love to be your friend. But like, if you're my client for life, like, I am not doing my job. Like, I don't understand why, you know, that's their tagline, to be a lifetime member. And I'm sure you guys hit on that as well. Something that I read recently was about, actually not recently, it was when the Jillian Michaels thing like kind of exploded a little while ago. Anna's shaking her head because she knows Sammy did a whole episode solo about that.
She went off.
But essentially, you know, looking up the Biggest Loser contestants, 5 years later too. Like there was a couple studies on that, like where they are now. And, you know, not only have they not maintained their weight loss, obviously, they're not mentally, many of them, the reports were showing that they suffered some severe mental health issues and consequences after that. Does your video go into like the mental health aspect of dieting and, you know, what it does on our bodies?
Well, we did interview Kai Hibbard, who was a past Biggest Loser contestant. So she was really cool to talk to. And what's really interesting is she is in a thinner body now than she ever was. But we do clarify in the film, she shares that that's because she's ill. She has lupus. She has a lot of health complications going on right now, but nobody freaking cares. They're like, well, you're thin, so Biggest Loser must have worked. It's like, actually, I'm sick. So it's like we have that in there that like weight loss isn't always about diet and exercise, and it's not always positive, and we judge people's bodies based on that. And yeah, a ton of that ties into the mental health of binge eating, and you're now obsessed with food, and you're now body checking every freaking 5 minutes. And as you pursue changing your body, then you become more and more obsessed with your body and more obsessed with food. And really that message of like, it was never enough. And that is what we've heard, like from thousands of people who we've worked with and from people that we've interviewed, is like, okay, I was in the thinnest, most toned, smallest body of my life, and it still wasn't enough.
And we've said that too throughout our life. You know, it was never enough for us because yes, we do this work and we're really passionate about it, but it's like we lived this as well. We both went through this whole cycle for 10 years each, and it really was never enough. And that's why I think that's the best thing that we have when we are working with women or creating things. It's like, we say this because we did this. It's not just because we think this, it's we've felt it and we've lived through it as well. And, you know, science is cool, but I think that's pretty legit as well, is having the experience behind it all.
100%.
That's so true. I also think too, like just bringing up that point of like pursuing thinness at all costs, like that just like it makes me sad that like people don't know that there's more than just that pursuit. And I think back to like when all those posts were coming out about Adele and people were commenting her on her weight loss, that broke the internet, didn't it? And I just think there's so much more to life. And I think just, it's so important to let people know that. And I love the name of the short film of Behind the Before and After, because people don't realize the in between of the before and the after. And I think it's so important. So I love it.
We obviously can't wait, if you can't tell. And I would love to hear, you kind of both have hit on it. And I mean, I've shared my personal story many times over. I mean, I called myself recently, I used to be a diet culture dietitian because I was absolutely in it myself and was 100%, you know, just entrenched in diet culture. And the idea of not being enough was legitimately like how I lived my life, like for many, many years. And so, you know, I found my way at some point, and I think all of us have a story, but I would love to hear more about each of yours. And, you know, were you always intuitive eating counselors? How did you find intuitive eating? And, you know, a little bit more about your personal journeys. So it's so relatable. And our listeners love to hear these things because I think they can all connect with the experiences that we share. Like you said, letters are cool, but lived experience matters.
Yeah, for sure. We're pretty weirdly similar. Like when we met, we're like, who are you? Are you me? Yeah. But so both of us kind of for the same 10 years went through this. For me at the peak, as I was modeling overseas and still not enough. Like I was literally the girl in the magazine and I was still beating myself up. I was binge eating. I was just so obsessed. It's all I ever thought about was what I weighed, what I looked like, what I was eating, how I was working out. That was all that mattered to me. And so my second trip overseas, it just wasn't the same. Like my first trip modeling overseas was really enjoyable. I met amazing people. It felt like a movie. It kind of was that hype that like people say, oh, if you're thin and pretty, you can have whatever you want and live the life. I did feel like I had that for a very, very short while. That's the thing, is all these things are always short-lived. And then my second trip, it was just a lot more negativity, a lot of people poking and prodding you. It's never enough. Just didn't connect with the people I was living with in the same way. And then I came home and I was like, ugh, like I can't, like I'm done with that. Like my life I can't be under that intense of a microscope. And then I came back home. I went back to school to become a school teacher. That was a big pivot in my journey, I think, because I realized like, oh, as a teacher, like these kids do not care what I look like at all. They care if I'm a good teacher. They care if I'm kind and loving, and it's like little kids who I adore. And it really kind of brought me out of that funk of like, get over yourself. What you look like is not your value. And then slowly and surely I started realizing like I have never been happy for 10 years, and I have been very thin, and it still wasn't enough. You know, don't have the shape that's in style, or you can't build muscle here, and that's what's cool now. And it's like, it's so narrowly prescribed that no one can fit into it perfectly. So if you're hunting for something, you're probably never going to hit that target. So I realized, okay, well, there hasn't been 1 minute where I'm like, ta-da, I did it. I'm here. This is what it was all for. Yay, check. Now I can move on with my life. And I was like, okay, it hasn't happened yet. I'm never going to land anywhere. It's just going to be this like treading water for the rest of my life. And I can't do it. I was so tired. And so I just started long journey and mental work and figuring out how to eat again. But I just started being like, there's food there and I want to eat it. I'm just going to eat it. And whatever happens, happens. And I started allowing that. And before even knowing like that body acceptance work and intuitive eating was a thing, I was just like, I'm going to start a business where I like teach people to be like cool with how they are. I thought I was like an innovator.
I love that.
And then I found the book Intuitive Eating, and I found all these other people doing it. I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't new. But cool, I'll join in on this movement. And it was just so cool to realize like, oh yeah, this is a thing. And it is valid. Like, look, there's all these studies that show that diets do what it was doing to me. So I'm not weird. Like, this is what everyone is experiencing. And then when you get to that side of freedom, and it's like, oh my God, how have we not all been here from day one? This is silly to just be doing all that for nothing. So then I was so passionate about it. And then as I was a teacher, I was subbing high school, I'd be like on my computer working on my new business. How can I transition into this work that I love? And then soon quit teaching, and then now doing this for the past 4 years full time.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's very, very powerful. And that lived experience just shows like the depth of really where diet culture took you, and like scraping your way out of it and how much happiness it's brought into your life, and success is just incredible. And so Lauren, your turn. Tell us more.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I definitely went to the depths of hell with disordered eating. That's for sure. Yes, mine's, pretty similar. I definitely was not a model overseas, but I went into that whole mindset of, being in that same place. It started in high school for me. I got to a place of, I don't know, it was just, I don't feel like I'm worthy. And I remember the very specific moment that happened. And I never ever cared about my weight, thought about my weight, did anything to diet up until that point. And then all of a sudden it was like, I don't feel worthy. Okay, now that must mean something about my appearance. So, okay, I'm going to start a diet. So that was the first time I even thought of that. And then it was like, the second I got into that first diet and I saw that first like number on the scale go down, it was like such a high. And I was like, I'm good at this. So I'm going to be the best at this. And I'm going to get really insane with this and get very controlling and restrictive. And obviously there's probably a lot of stuff that going on like mentally that's not well. It's not just about my body and my weight. Probably it had nothing to do with that. It had something else. I probably needed to go see a therapist instead, but I didn't because, I was in high school. That's not cool. So I got to a place where I just got obsessed with the way I looked, and I got very, controlling, restrictive. I had always been an athlete my whole life. So that was definitely not a good thing to do together, like not eat and then go play 90-minute soccer games. Probably not a good idea. When you're younger, you can kind of get away with it a little bit. Your body, I don't know, just powers through it, and it was okay. But I mean, it was very disordered, and I just got deeper and deeper in it. And then I went off to college, was still totally disordered, not free at all. My mind was constantly thinking about food. It was like over exercising, eating nothing, and then playing, soccer in college as well. And, my body's getting to a place where it probably needs some, I don't know, fuel to be a college athlete. And so that was not a good 4 years for me. I mean, I got through it, but it was just like my mind was constantly messed up. But it was like on the outside, it was like, well, you're going to college and you're playing soccer, and like, that's great. Okay. Like nobody really knew what was going on. So kind of got through that part of my life, and I was still really messed up with food. And then instead of just like going into a place of, I can't do this anymore, it was like I got hit even harder out of college, because it was like I graduated, so I'm no longer a student, which I've been in my whole life. I broke up with this person I'd been with for 8 years. So I was like, now not with this person and single, that I've never experienced. And then it was like, okay, you're an adult. Go be an adult because you just graduated. Go figure out what you want to do. So it just left me, and I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know who I am. I am like completely just kind of fell deeply into like a darker place in my life. And that's like when all the transition happened, like the story of like trying to find myself and and like self-love. And I got into that, and it boosted me up a little bit, trying to find self-love. I didn't even know what the word meant. I would think I was like 22 or 23, and I saw the word self-love, and I was like, what? Like, I didn't even understand. And that's like sad to not even understand what that word is. But then I was like, okay, I think I need to start doing some of that stuff, because I think that's what I need. So then I went on that little journey, and simultaneously was like being a health coach. Obviously, I'm going to go help people with their weight because I was obsessed with mine. So once I found the self-love journey and that personal growth, I started like shifting. I don't know, my like food and body started to shift. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to be an intuitive eater. I didn't know what that was. I didn't understand that term either. And so it just, for some reason, like the self-love and the self-worth started lifting. And then it was like, I started shifting the way I saw food in my body. And that's when the journey of like, oh, this intuitive eating thing, oh, that's cool. I'd rather do that stuff instead of be this health coach, which is really restrictive and diety. I want to shift that. So I shifted my business to more intuitive eating. And then, that started my own personal business. And then Jenna and I linked up, and we're like, rah, rah, let's do this together. And here we are. And yeah, so kind of a similar journey to, I'm sure most people have kind of gone through that little up and down, but
you guys have covered everywhere from overseas modeling to athlete, like college athlete, and how diet culture spans that entire lineup is crazy. But something we had Victoria Garrick on our podcast a little while ago, and she shared a very similar sentiment to you when you were saying, Lauren, that, after you graduate, and I know so many of our listeners are athletes and student athletes, like when you're no longer a student and you're no longer an athlete and you're trying to find yourself, like the disordered eating patterns are no longer quote unquote acceptable, because when you're in sport, sometimes coaches oversee them or whatever it is. Now they just become like super apparent, and people don't know what to do. And so thank you for sharing that, we've normalized that in our society, like so many other things I'm sure you hit in the documentary, that is just so not okay.
Yeah. I actually remember my high school soccer coach, I was like at the worst. And I remember we went to like breakfast, we were going to a game and we had breakfast first. And it was like, I got something very minimal and was all scared to eat it. And I just remember he's like, wow, you care so much about your sport. Like, you're just so healthy. And I'm just like, yeah, for sure. But it was just like, and I just remember certain, like some of the soccer moms would say how proud they were of me because of like, I was just like, this is, in that time I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing. Super healthy, and you should be proud. But thinking now that I'm like an adult and can look back, it was like, wow, my coach and adults were telling me they were proud and I was doing a good job. So why do I think I should go help myself?
Right. That's such a great point.
That's such a big part of my story too, is I look back and it makes me sick to my stomach thinking about how many people I can list off that either complimented me for things that were harming me to an extent that they had no idea. And I think so many people can relate to that too. Of, you could probably list so many people. I can probably do more than I can count my fingers, like so many. And it makes me sad, and also makes me just feel like I want to reach more people. And I know your story, Lauren, mine's very similar, is going to reach people and make them feel not alone, because we can all say that we've had people that have complimented us for trying to pursue weight loss. Yeah. And it's just like, it's so sad. It is really.
Yeah, and that's a part in the film that we do discuss, is like,
yes, tell me more.
Like,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, all the spoilers. But it's like, I mean, it's obvious stuff, but we put it together in a way that's nice to consume for 35 minutes for someone who might not get this work. Is like, hey, watch this fun, quick, like entertaining film. So instead of like, you know, reading a book that's 300 pages to educate you on this, you can watch something and have it sink in a little bit more. But a whole part of it about like, of course it's hard to quit when people are saying, you're so amazing. Oh my gosh, you look so good. Oh my gosh, where'd that waist come from? Oh my God, you look so good. What are you doing? Tell me what you're doing. And like, no one cares if it's healthy. No one cares if you're happy. No one cares if you have an eating disorder. They just care that you're thin and you eat for you.
So true.
No questions asked. Just tell me the good stuff. And so, and hopefully getting that out to more people, then they'll stop complimenting people and making such a fuss about weight loss. And then that person is getting less and less praise for it. And then maybe they'll see it more quickly, like, oh, wait, this is not a healthy place to be.
It's so, I hope everybody understands how excited I am about this. But with that said, I also think it's so important that people hear this from so many different places. I mean, we talk about this message constantly. I did a whole podcast episode about how when I was literally like dying, like I was not well, I had no period for many years, like very, very frail, all the things. Our listeners have heard this before, but I was being praised at the gym, like, oh my God, your body goals. Like, no. And I was like, thank you. Like, what's next? Right. And like, it's that fucked up brain cycle that like just keeps going. And it's like, okay, I need to hear this. That was like my energy, right? It was like hearing those compliments. And
that was your food.
Yes. And if they stopped, it was like, what am I doing wrong? Who's taking the crown? Right? Like it's not okay. And that like is a perpetual cycle that is really hard to break. And so what I always tell people is like, you need to hear this message from a million different people. Like you need to hear it a bunch of different ways until you hear it. And I think that your video is going to do that for people, because you're right, like we live in a society where TikToks that are 15 seconds go viral, but if they're a minute, they get a view, like because a minute is too long to watch, right? So I think that what you're saying is so dead on, that there's amazing resources out there, but so many people have not read the intuitive eating book because it's 300 pages, right? But they will watch a video for 35 minutes with some of these incredible people on it, and hopefully even just like start the process of
plant those seeds. That's all we can do.
And we really tried to touch on getting, make the film as diverse as possible. Of course, we couldn't control who said yes to us. But just the fact that there's a lot of diversity within the film and everybody's saying the same thing, basically, is it kind of just goes to show you that it doesn't matter what body type you have. If somebody was in a larger body or a smaller body, everybody was saying the same exact thing. So it shows you that it's not about the weight, and it never was and never will be. And hopefully through this film, we can get people to stop pursuing weight loss, but that doesn't mean to stop pursuing feeling good in your body and to doing things that make you feel good and make you feel happy. So there's a difference. There's a difference between dieting and weight obsession and having wellness without the obsession.
I love that. Yeah. That's perfect. Well, before we tell everybody where they can watch the video and where they can find you guys, we always like to have like a little bit of a theme of each episode. And Anna and I were looking through all of your podcast episodes before, and we absolutely loved the episode that you guys have done about balance. And so I'm going to share Diet Culture Jenna's old tagline, used to be balanced as fuck. And so I think that this one hits home to me like so well. And it's funny because balance, I think in the sense of the diet culture world is really fucked up or messed up, forked up. But it is something that's really misunderstood, because you'll see a lot of dietitians and health professionals using that to promote quote unquote mindful eating or whatever the case may be. And it's a really confusing topic. What I love about your podcast also is that you guys put such a great description in each episode in the show notes. And so I would love to hear, everybody needs to go listen to this episode, but if you could share just like a little perspective on why balance is BS, we would love to hear that.
Well, I think the reason people want balance is like, of course, yes, if someone says don't diet and you think you're going to eat donuts and pizza every day for the rest of your life, nobody wants that, truly. Like, your taste buds don't want that, your body doesn't want that. Like, you also don't want to eat only kale for the rest of your life. Like, nobody wants to eat either of those ways. And so, yes, the idea of like having it all is beautiful, and that's what this work does. But the quote unquote balance only comes when you let go of trying to control it. It only comes when you surrender and just say, I'm just going to eat what feels good and what looks good, and I'm just going to eat and move on with my day. And at the end of the week, the end of the month, you look back, you go, oh, wow, I've eaten all the food groups. I've genuinely wanted that salad, and I genuinely wanted that donut. That smoothie was great. That pizza was great. Cool. Look at me. I'm eating all the foods. It doesn't mean, well, every 24 hours, I eat this many vegetables and this many, and I have one small dessert. Like, that's the balance that that dieting uses, and that people who aren't truly in this work use to kind of sway you into thinking they're different. Oh, be balanced. You can still have dessert. It's like, well, of course you can. You can do whatever you want. You're a grown-ass woman. There's no rules. But the balance does come just for people who are like, but it's scary. I'm just going to eat this one direction my whole life. It's like, no, letting that pendulum kind of just flow. And like, when we do talk about balance in a positive way, but we always say it's not like a balance beam. It's like ebb and flow. It's some weeks I don't eat many vegetables, some weeks I'll eat lots, and so in the summer I'll eat more fresh fruit, and in the winter I'll eat more warm soup. Like, that's just life. But if you try to find balance, you try to create balance, you try to control anything, it just backfires.
Yeah, forcing balance is just dieting. That's just what it is.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, Jenna basically said, we usually say when like the other person's speaking, it's just like, those are our words anyway. Like, just speak for me. It doesn't really matter because we have like the same brains, same minds,
you guys
same
are
thoughts.
meant to be.
We really were. So yeah. So I would say Jenna touched on all the points about what that episode was about and what balance is to us. And we really, it's hard to even say the word balance because we don't want people to look at it through the lens of like dieting balance, because intuitive eating isn't about just finding balance. It's much more than that. It's almost not even part of the equation. It's something that just happens.
Like a side effect.
Yeah, it's something that just happens naturally. I've never been more balanced in my life, but I did not pursue balance and I did not try to be balanced. It just happens. And it really is that ebb and flow. Like, it's not straight in the middle. It's that we love that. We love that word. We use ebb and flow like with everything that we do.
And I love how you put it in this in the show notes here, but when you pursue balance, it's forced, it's fake, it's a diet, it's still rules, there's still shoulds. And I think that that's going to be a big like moment for many of our listeners, because you don't realize sometimes how many rules you actually live by when you're in that world, right? Like, you don't really recognize how, I think Sam and I have talked about it in past episodes, like people will use terms like flexible dieting, right? Like, and say that it's also intuitive eating or food freedom, right? But like, wait, what? Like, how do those two things work together? But the way that you put that there's still shoulds. Like, you should be doing something, and that guilt and shame connected to the should is really the stress that's being put on your body, that you can't actually achieve balance with those things. So that's a really great episode for everybody listening. That's episode 133 of the How to Love Your Body podcast. And just, there's so much goodness in there that I think would be a great complement to this episode.
That's so good. I remember too, somebody asked me like, so you want to be a dietitian? So what does that mean for you? And I was like, oh, I'm going to help people like be balanced, just be healthier, But then they came back and said, oh, so you're going to help people lose weight. And it's almost like when you say that word balance, like it's an unspoken, like it's still the pursuit of weight loss per se. Like you're still tying your worth to that. But that was like the first aha moment that I had when somebody said, oh, so you're going to help people lose weight. In my head, I was like, I didn't say anything to them because I was thrown off. But in my head, I was like, no, like that's not what I want to do. So like that was way before like I'd found intuitive eating and everything. But a part of me knew back then it was like that pursuit of quote unquote balance and like helping people lose weight. Like that's not really going to help people. Like I want to dig deeper. So, and I think Lauren or Jen, I don't remember, one of you mentioned that kind of in your story is like you like just found it like intuitive eating and listening to your body's self-love without even like the pursuit of it. It just kind of came like naturally when you finally started to accept yourself. So I told Jenna this before we started airing, but I was like, what the hell does balance even mean? Like, can they just remove it from the vocabulary, please? Because it just makes me mad.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of nuances.
Exactly. And that's a lot of what kind of the retaliation we get of, not retaliation, but like the argument.
I'm sure.
It's like, I'm just trying to be healthy. Well, I just want to be balanced. Well, I want to be this. It's like, that's all still the same crap with a different label.
Yeah.
Like,
so good.
True surrender of like, I'm just going to eat food and be a normal person and just carry on with my life and have food be a small part of my life instead of the focus of my life. That doesn't mean you don't eat fruit and vegetables, but it does mean there's literally no shoulds. Like I can, without guilt, worry, or anything, just eat chocolate all day, but my body does not want that. Because I can have chocolate whenever I want, I truly understand that I do not want that. But if you're like, well, I got to be balanced, you might think you want more tons of chocolate all the time, but because you're saying, okay, I can have this amount at the end of the day for my dessert. It's like, it's just so interesting. Even when you're trying to be balanced, you think it's sensible, you think it's common sense, you think it's healthy, being healthier, like all these words, really, like you said, there's no definition. Okay, what's healthier to you? What's healthier to him? What is balanced to you? What's balanced to her? It's all going to be different. So if that's your goal, is something that's like unmeasurable, you will never reach it, and you'll always feel like you're failing, and it'll never be good enough.
There's that enough mentality coming back in.
And I feel like I'm gonna like throw like a little wrench in this episode.
Yes,
let's be honest. It's like the only reason people want to be balanced is so they could either control their weight or lose weight or do anything. So that's the core of this, which we all know, which is the core of fat phobia. It's like we're all living in fear of fat, and that's the problem here. Because if fat phobia didn't exist, I don't think anybody would be obsessed with being balanced. They wouldn't give a shit. They would just be like, I'm just going to eat what I want. And everybody would probably just be intuitive if fat phobia didn't exist.
Yes. And Sammy, I forget who says this, but Sammy says it all the time. She always says, if diet culture didn't exist, intuitive eating would literally just be eating. Like,
we need a label.
Right. Yeah. I think there's so many ways that we could take this, and it's just the real truth is that the sad truth, I should say, is that everybody feels very much the need to be connected to a label, right? And the unfortunate thing about diet culture is that you find these pods, right? Keto warriors and Weight Watchers champs and all of these like subgroups of each quote unquote diet that provide this support, heavy air quotes, that makes you feel normal for taking part in these ridiculous rules. Like, don't even get me started on the Whole30. Like, their support groups are absolutely absurd. I think I've blocked all of their accounts because I can't look at it. But you know, the thing that people don't understand, and why I'm so excited about, you know, sharing this episode with our audience, and I cannot wait to watch this video, but there is support in the anti-diet space, but people don't understand how to find it to some extent still. And it hasn't been normalized yet to the extent that it needs to be. And you guys are literally creating waves in the field to help more people see this. I mean, I think your video had like 300,000 views in like a day. Like that is what the response that it needs. And this is something that needs to continue to grow and just change the world. So the work you're doing matters, and we are so grateful for it. With all of that said, where can people watch it and when, and tell them how to find you guys and all of the goodness that you're putting out there? My co-dietitian in my practice literally sent this to me and was like, have you seen this? Like, I can't wait to watch. She sent it to all of her clients. We like couldn't be more excited about it.
That's awesome. Well, you did a perfect segue there, because like you say, there's no like mainstream support groups. Well, you can watch the film on the Undiet Collective. It is a new app coming February 1st. Obviously the film is free. There's resources on there that are free. But there is a paid community membership. And that is just a huge support group, live coaching, monthly workshops, support to do this work long-term, because like you kind of shared in our intro, there are tons of courses out there. There's a lot out there to do, like, hey, really in-depth, like 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and working with one-on-one people is so great. But what do you do the other like weeks of the year or the other hours in the day? If you see a dietitian 1 hour a week, where's the support apart from that? And so that's what the app is really about, is just 7 days a week, 365 days a year, have something at your fingertips to ask questions, to get support, to be with peers doing the same work, to get coaching from intuitive eating counselors, so that it does feel normalized, like you said. And that is where the film will be released on February 1st. There is also a web version. So if someone doesn't have a smartphone or doesn't want to watch it on the app, there's also a website where you can go, and it's like the app online. So
amazing. Oh, and where can everybody find you guys, stalk you guys on social media? However you want to share personal or business pages. We love to stalk our guests.
Yeah. Well, we are theBodyLoveSociety.com, and we're also at the Body Love Society on Instagram. And we also, if you guys are very interested in the app, we have the Undiet Collective Instagram as well. And that's where you can really learn a lot more about it, how to use it, how to do it, what's coming out, all the things. So you can follow both of those, either of them, whatever, but that's where you can find us. We're always there on Instagram. That's for
Your
sure.
social media is amazing. I was telling Jenna before, I was like, I want to know like who's like behind it, like who's the brains or the creative person. Is it both of you? Like
it's beautiful.
I literally go back and forth. I do a day, then it's Lauren's day, then it's my day, then it's Lauren's day.
Yeah,
so it's
just
I love
switch
it.
off.
So you two really are the same person.
Yeah, we are. We flow as one.
I just like speak in we now. I'm not even an I anymore. It's just like we.
That's the truest statement ever with social media right there.
And when I do say, like, when I have a story of my own where it's like, oh, well, this is me, I like I spin Jenna in anyway, because it's like, it's just like too weird to just talk about like one person, because that, and I think that's why we do so well with what we do, is because we are always a we. That's just what it is. It doesn't matter who does what. We do a lot of 50-50 work in this business, but it doesn't matter who's doing what. It's always a we in a partnership. So I think that's also nice in the world the work that we do.
Yeah, we're going against the entire culture. So
we
need a partner in this madness.
I was going to say, it is true women supporting women and just taking down the diet culture from its roots, and it's an amazing thing. So thank you guys for all of the work that you do. Thank you for hopping on with us and sharing your time, and everybody get ready to watch behind the before and after.
Jenna, we need to do rapid fire.
Oh, really? Okay. So I forgot.
We almost forgot. Come on.
Because it'll be the ending here. Let's pick like 3. We'll do 4. We'll go back and forth, Anna.
Let's do it.
Food focus. I'm just going to go with, you guys just say what comes to your mind. Would you rather crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Smooth.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to be divided? Because you were about to say crunchy.
I know, but this is, you know what my thought process was?
Both.
That we've been buying crunchy, but
Yes.
I like crunchy, but we buy the natural kind just because that's the kind I genuinely prefer. And lately it hasn't been oily enough, so I can't spread it on the toast. And so now we've been buying smooth, and I can spread it really nice, so I'm going with smooth.
And actually smooth because the kids have to have smooth. So we got to just go with smooth.
Yes.
All right, Anna, you're up.
Okay, so let's see, coffee or tea?
Coffee. Hello. You clearly
Oh,
don't
yeah.
follow us that
Our
close.
people, let's go.
That's the best one ever. Jenna and I, we're just the coffee ladies.
Coffee people.
My newest favorite that I came up with the other day is pancakes or waffles, because I never really realized people really have a preference.
Well, I mean,
it's interesting. Neither for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't.
French toast?
French toast. I'll do that one.
I'm throwing in something on the end.
French
I'm
toast.
celiac, so like none of that really excites me. But
Okay.
but
Pizza.
Yeah.
We'll take
whatever
that.
you say. I choose pizza.
Yeah.
Done. All right, one more final one, Anna. Hit it home.
Oh my gosh. Hard shell or soft shell taco?
Soft.
Hard.
Yeah, we divided
We're
them.
fighting.
We
now.
did. We divided you guys.
Well, it's weird. Like Jenna and I, sometimes it's like almost opposites attract sometimes.
Yes.
And I feel like we always have to get all realms. So we both do,
cover all the bases.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you greatly and cannot wait for everybody to watch this incredible movie.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of What the Actual Fork Pod. We know there are a lot of pods out there, and we are so grateful that you are here listening with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, share with all your friends and faves, and follow along with us on social at What the Actual Fork Pod. We promise to continue to bring you the hottest topics, greatest guests, and the most fun you can possibly have while fighting diet culture bullshit. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you next week for a lot more fun.